think realtors could do in terms of really supporting how decisions are made for new people coming in is increasing the access to principals, and making people more aware that you can actually go toward your possible new district school. Being able to comfortably answer, to direct someone to get an appropriate answer that they have around a school would be a very good concrete first step. Also, increased knowledge of trends in the current area and neighborhood. Being able to speak to why there are so many open houses. Is it due to kids who are now going to college that's now driving the need for parents to no longer have their residence? Pointing out some of the positive things within each of the district communities to really have people understand why it's so hard to find an ideal home that's in a great setting. I also think really being able to point to where there's specific data and being comfortable saying what you don't know. There's a wealth of information that people who are searching homes immediately access beforehand, and knowing where to access at least a starting point of information that can just drive you to ask more questions, I think are things that realtors could do that can positively affect how people are coming in.
Thanks. I think Brian wanted to answer that as well. Okay, sure, Jason.
I think it does come from the top down. I'm a homeowner, but as Mike said too, we are getting better. The school system, I have to say, since I was in the school system, has gotten 100 times better than when I was there. I believe there are phenomenal teachers. I am going to be a little biased on this one too, but there are phenomenal programs in this city. One is the Norwalk High School Marching Band. Sorry to anybody from McMahon.
Easy there.
But, I'm sorry, I am biased, but one of the things that they did, and they still do tremendously well, is they promote the hell out of that program. Ron does a phenomenal job at McMahon too, but Jeff and Chris piggybacking off what Jeff did in his tenure, they promote the hell out of that program. And I think if we truly say that we promote more of Norwalk and what we're becoming as a wonderful city, I think Mike said that we are going to revamp the website, and there are some websites out there. I know Marvin Schools, for example, needs a little bit of a revamp, but if we get our message out there and promote our city to what it can be, I think everyone will start to come more into this town.
Great, thanks.
Well, thanks. Well, a homeowner who bought here I could finally afford my house in the mid-2000s, and I've watched its value precipitously drop over the last 10 years. So, I think a lot of us are in that situation, and we have real skin in the game, so we are all committed to making this thing work right. Now, it's anecdotal for me, but I have heard from the realtors, through my colleague Barbas, that they're very, very warm to what we have been trying to do with the SPED fund and putting more focus in this area. Again, we're an imperfect system, but we strive for perfection. I think if any of you had not had a chance to go to the last board business meeting, about 12 bullet points were laid out in what we're going to do to address some of the deficiencies listed by the state, who, while they did exonerate us on the systemic charge, we realize there's things we need to do. So those are planned. And then just looking at, I can't go through these in less than an hour, looking at our new programs that we have identified, that we're starting this year for SPED, and that's part of that SPED financing that we were able to secure from the city 3 years ago now, sorry. One of these is it's called Project Search. It's community-based at Norwalk Community College, and this is going to help 18 to 21-year-old SPED students find careers. So we're not just leaving them out into the wild after high school. We have put systems in place and programs, and this will be evaluated by the next board at some point, or maybe the permanent special education committee. And if that committee can go to bat on these things or drop some and try to interject new ones, work with finance committees to see what's affordable and get it through the whole board. So anyway, that's it.
Great, thank you.
So in the late 90s, early 2000s, New Haven embarked in a massive school construction program. And following that school construction program, Yale put forth a study that existed over several years to control for socioeconomic variables and the introduction of federal interventions and state interventions. And what it showed was that there was a causal effect in school reconstruction on home values. And there was a correlating effect on test scores and general morale in the schools. And when that happens, you have a natural supply and demand that drives up our home values, which real estate agents love. And I think when we get into the conversation of school construction, it's imperative that the board member who's in that seat next year is one that can advocate for capital funding to support that school construction. And as a special needs parent, you know nobody advocates better than us, right? So I'm keen to take that charge. And I think given the recent press of Norwalk around gun control and sadly the gentleman who was prepared to do some mass destruction, either in our malls or in our schools or what have you, I think parents are particularly sensitive to the controls from a security standpoint. And when you rebuild a school, you have to bring it up to compliance after Newtown to the security standards. So if you've been in a brand new school, you'll know that there's a double vestibule that you have to go through. And even if after you get to that double vestibule, in order to move forward, I think it's like 100, 200 feet into the school, you've got to secure it again. So there's protocols in place to make sure that that mass destruction doesn't happen. And I think the second piece is, as we bring up our schools from programming and school construction perspectives, we're putting into place this good problem to have for parents. I had this wonderful conversation with a Wolf Pit parent the other day who said her daughter had magnet into Columbus. And she said, I love Wolf Pit so much. She said, I love all the programming there, I love all the teachers, but I also love this choice opportunity I have, this magnet opportunity I have to drive my child across town to Columbus. And I said to myself, that's what we want in Norwalk. We want best-in-class neighborhood schools that keep people in those neighborhoods and drive up the home value, and the hard decision of whether or not they use their choice opportunity to magnet into another program.
Great, thank you, Erica.